Our course title is Computer Technology. Our course code is CTE 431. Digital transmission. Digital transmission, it is refers to the process of transferring data between two or more digital devices. So what are those digital devices? They can be gadgets, cell phones, or iPad and so on, that will be able to communicate between each and everyone in different identity. So data is transmitted from one device to another in analog or digital format basically. So analog and digital devices are capable of accepting data from one place to another. So data transmission enables devices or components within devices to speak to each other. So those devices will be able to speak to each other in different location or destination. So data is transferred in a form of a bit between two or more digital devices. So two or more digital devices will be able to send and receive data. Types of data transmission. The main types of data transmission include simplex, half duplex, full duplex, serial transmission, and asynchronous transmission. Let's start from the first one, which is simplex. Regard to simplex, data is sent only from one device to another with no reply possible for the receiving device. The good example of this is like a one-way road. People traveling on a road without having two lanes. So let's look at the next one, which is half duplex. Data can be sent in both directions, but only one direction at a time will be able to respond. Like for instance, walkie-talkie. Most of our securities really use that in order for them to make an alert. So we have full duplex. Data can be sent in both directions simultaneously, like a phone conversation. So regards to the full duplex, you'll be able to transmit information, like you'll be able to send and receive data between each and everyone you intended to contact it. So serial transmission, data bits are one at a time. So regards to the serial transmission, you will be able to send datas, multiple datas, but they can only go one after the other. So that's why they are serial transmission. They transmit data and information once at a time, sequentially over a single channel. Let's take a look of data transmission diagram. We have data transmission, which is the first one. So the data transmission in communication is a process of transferring and receiving data between point to point in order for us to have a understandable communication in separate identities. A sender will be able to send, and a receiver will also be able to receive the direct information. So let's look at the second one, which is parallel transmission. Regards to parallel transmission, data transmission involves sending multiple bits of a data simultaneous across multiple connection channels. So let's look at the next one, which is known as serial data transmission. So serial data transmission is the process of sending data in bits one after the other over a single communication line. So let's look at under serial transmission, we have asynchronous, synchronous, and isochronous. So the asynchronous, transmitting data without a clock signal, it is also known as start-stop transmission, which is asynchronous. So let's look at the synchronous. Synchronous transmission is a method of transferring data between two devices at a constant rate. data transmission mode diagram. Data transmission mode include simplex, half duplex, and full duplex. So regard to the simplex, you will be able to send data and information at one direction without receiving. So let's look at half duplex, both directions but in one direction at a time, like a walkie-talkie. Then let's look at the full duplex, both direction at the same time, example of cell phone. You'll be able to send and also receive directly from the receiver. Parallel transmission. So when data bits are sent using parallel data transmission, multiple data bits must definitely follow over multiple channels at the same time, in the sense that all those data and information that will be sent to individual have to be in a separate channels or wires. So this means that data can be sent much faster than using serial data transmission. As we said earlier, that serial data transmission are the transmission that multiple data have to be sent in a single wire, which is contradict to parallel data transmission. In parallel transmission, all the bits of data are transmitted simultaneously on separate communication lines. In the process of simultaneously means that directly on a separate cables. So in order to transmit n bits, n lines are used in a form that each bit has its own lines. So the n bits refers to the numbers of wires that have to be transferred. If we have 10 bits, that means we have to provide a 10 n bit lines of wires that will transfer those data. So parallel transmission is used for short distance communication. Regard to parallel transmission, we can only use it for short distance communication, so that we will not have breach of wires. So all n bits of one group is transmitted with each other. So the sender and the receiver wires have to be connected to each other. Let's take a look of this parallel transmission diagram. Here is the sender, then here is the receiver. We are to see our data, which are 1, 1, 0, 0, 1, and so on. Then we have our n lines, which is the number of lines. So as we said earlier, that the sender and receiver have to connect those wires together in order for communication to be transmitted simultaneously. So here are advantages of parallel transmission. It is a speedy way of transmitting data, as multiple bits are transmitted simultaneously with a single clock. So only one clock that is enforcing those data to be transmitted in different wires, and it is easier for them to go faster since they are using different cables. So less complex electronic components, so the design is not that complex. So application like printer and scanner and external hard drives benefit from the fast data transfer capabilities. If you are using scanner or printer, you can easily enjoy them because the data and information will be faster delivered. So let's look at the disadvantages of parallel transmission. So not suitable for long distance data transmission. If you are to use it in long distance transmission, the cables or wires will not be able to be enough due to signal degradation. Over long distance signals traveling on a different wires may arrive at the receiver at slightly different times. So if you use long wires, they might not come in time due to the distance. So serial transmission. Serial transmission send data bit one after another over a single channel. So when data bit is sent or received using serial data transmission, so those data have to be organized in a specific order so that they can only be sent one after the other in a single wire. So serial communication is used for long distance communication we can be able to send those data for a long distance communication between different devices. It requires only one communication line rather than n lines. So you don't need n lines like multiple wires in order for you to transmit your data or information. You can be able to accumulate your data in many ways. Maybe if you have like 20 data, you have to send them in a serial form, which is one wire, so that those data and information should be going bit by bit, which is one after the other, to transmit data from sender to receiver, so that the sender and the receiver will be able to have the data. So these all the bits of data are transmitted on a single line in serial fashion. Let's take a look of the serial transmission or serial communication. So here is the sender, here is the receiver, then this is the data. So the bus refers to the n lines, which is the wires. So this is our data 1011011010. So we have to see that this is the sender. The sender will be able to send those data in one cable. So those data must to reach the receiver bit after bit, which is one after the other. So the first data that the receiver will receive is the first 0, then followed by the second 0, followed by 1, followed by 0, followed by 1 1, followed by 0, followed by 1. That's how serial transmission or serial communication data is sent to the sender to receiver.